Okay, members, I've been on earlier this morning and I explained a little bit about the legal procedures so that we can have a basis for the discussion this morning. I really appreciate your attendance this morning because the case that was heard yesterday before the High Court uh, in Bloemfontein could have been, and I suppose it's going to be, one of the most important cases in the history of South Africa. Reason why? Because there's fundamental aspects that needs to be decided upon by a court of law relating to forced vaccination of individuals. We're not dealing here with employees, we're dealing here with students. So we're dealing with a whole different set of facts from that I focused on for months here on my social media pages. We're dealing with the issue of students and their admission to campus as well as residences at a university. Intrinsically part of that case, of course, will be findings and judgment about a host of issues that will give us clarity as to the way forward on the issue of forced vaccination in South Africa. Politically, I think we've reached the end of the whole COVID issue in any event. Across the globe, this morning my Telegram followers were unfortunately the only people on my social media yet privy to video footage coming from New Zealand and Australia very early this morning. Remember, they are a couple of hours before us. Australia and New Zealand this morning is alive. The streets of Canberra, Australia is filled with protesters. Various video footage, parts of video footage from across New Zealand showing that people are turning to protest in mass today in those countries. We all know what's happening, of course, in Kazakhstan, or has happened the last couple of weeks. And then, of course, we all know what's happening at this point in time in Canada, to the extent that yesterday evening the truckers, and it's not only truckers, it's by now a full-scale uprising, and I think occupation of the city of Ottawa, and also one of the key strategic bridges between Canada, the heartland of the Canadian economy, and the United States, just to the south of it, being blocked off by the protesters. So politically, I think COVID has run its course. Something new will pop up. I've started to warn you about that already. But in South Africa, we're always behind. So we're still sitting with the whole issue of forced vaccination here, and very ample then, and very apt at this point in time, still relating to universities. Excuse me. Let's deal with a case that was before the court in Bloemfontein yesterday. I'm not going to explain the processes again. I did that in my video feed a little bit earlier today. You can go and watch that. On application, a juristic person by the name of Free State Freedom went to court, and they took the University of the Free State to court relating to their policy of mandatory vaccination for students. The applicants, in other words, us, the good guys, I'm not part of that case, but us as the good guys, the side fighting on our side, was represented by a attorney's firm from Pretoria, very well known to me, Vogel Inc., and specifically Mr. Jaru Vogel. I know the man personally. He's a very, very good attorney, extremely good attorney. He's also been spearheading what was called, and is still called, Synergy Legal. It's the group of lawyers from all walks that have amalgamated and stood together to fight many cases and many legal arguments previously. So Jaru is certainly the best person, to my mind, that could lead this case at any court at this point in time. His attorney's firm is geared towards this kind of litigation. They are a litigation firm. They're not transport attorneys or people doing, I would call it more general work. They are a specialized litigation firm. This is what they do. I use them personally for myself too. Melissa, one of the attorneys at Jaru Vogel's firm, Vogel Inc., is my personal attorney in Pretoria when I do have to do litigation there. The other personal attorney that I have is of course down here in the Free State. This is Casper Creer from Creer Venter Inc. The other attorney's firm that I've made mention of quite a few times on my video feed. Okay, the advocate that was instructed by Jaru is a senior advocate from the Brooklyn Chambers. He's called Rudolph du Plessis. Yes, people pointed out yesterday evening to me my so-called history with Rudolph. I do not have a problem with Rudolph in his professional capacity. As far as I can establish, he is an excellent senior counsel. So whatever we think on a personal level of one another is simply not relevant here. The fight that we are fighting and the cause that we are fighting for is so big that personal issues between people should not even be a factor. So with the legal team down in Bloemfontein yesterday, there was certainly no problem. They were the best of the best that came out fighting in that High Court. People criticized yesterday and said, yeah, but maybe it was the attorney's mistake, and maybe it was the advocate or the legal team. No, it was not. I can state that to you as a fact. The people involved there, the lawyers involved there, were top-notch and still are top-notch, to my opinion. As I say, I use Jaru Vogel's attorney's firm as my own personal attorneys when I litigate in Bloemfontein, in Pretoria. Okay, let's deal with the issue at hand. The application was basically to stop the university relating to the policy of forced vaccination, the University of Free State, and of course they opposed it. We know that. The process was one of application, and it was done on a semi-urgent basis. Simply meaning that the legal team went to the High Court of Free State in Bloemfontein, a court I know so well, and they petitioned the court to have the case put on an urgent roll before a single judge as quick as possible, which indeed happened yesterday. It was opposed. The issue of urgency, the first part of the double process that was before court yesterday, was indeed argued in full by the two parties. And in the end, the judge then ruled, I think correctly. I differ from other people's view on this, but maybe correctly, that herself as a single judge in an urgent application was not the forum. It's a female judge. I also personally know her to be a very good judge. I don't think there was a problem with the judge, that she in herself, by herself, should not render that ruling. There were two issues mostly relating to this. Firstly, the court documents, of course, are voluminous. A huge amount of documents to be read. Okay? Secondly, this case is of national importance. It's not something to be rushed. Because if you rush this thing, there's most probably going to be grounds for appeal before the appeals court or a full bench of judges. So with the greatest respect to Jaru, and I know Jaru would have liked his case to be heard the minute yesterday, Jaru, personally I think maybe it was a good thing that urgency did not succeed yesterday in your application. The learned judge then did a very wise thing, I think, from her side and from the bench there with the parties present, instructed them to go to the deputy president, judge president, petition him personally to get a special date, an early date, not to go back onto the long motion roll that's months long, and then to have the case put before a full bench. One of the commentators in my previous video said a panel of judges. Technically, we don't speak of panels of judges. It's also not something strange or new or extraordinary in this case. The High Court can appoint what is called a full bench to sit on important cases. A full bench is usually 3 judges who then sit. Why 3? Because if they have to vote in chambers, in the end, it's always going to be 2 votes against 1. And then you sometimes have the third judge. If he or she differs from the outcome, he will still write his finding, but that is then the minority finding that does not count in that specific case. So from a legal standpoint, I was very, very angry yesterday evening when I realized what happened at the court, and that the court did not hear the case. But during the night, when I studied the press releases, as well as the documents that I had, it dawned on me that maybe it was the better thing that happened yesterday. The God of justice was with you yesterday, Yaru, although maybe you do not feel that in your heart yet. And the court of justice guided you through that process. The merits were not heard in a hurry. It was not heard to such an extent that maybe that judge felt under pressure to make a finding either way, and it now gives all the parties and the court the opportunity to hear this case in full. A court date has already been set down. If I'm not mistaken, I have it as the 23rd of March. So on the 23rd of March, a full bench of 3 judges in Bloemfontein High Court will hear this case. It will be argued in full on merit. The issue of urgency will not come up again, and therefore I think the proper forum for this case has been set down now. This is what the God of justice would have liked in this case. I have no problem really, if I really look at this case and the importance of this case. We only have to wait about a month and a half for this case to finalize. Why that long? Because there's obviously going to be a little bit of time for the judges to make their finding, and it will be done most probably in writing. Judgment will be reserved on that day, I assume, unless something very strange happens, and we will have the finding in writing on a little bit of a later date. Okay. The media went haywire, as they did with the 2 nonsensical cases from the CCMA, the one by Commissioner Pieter Venter and the one by Commissioner Mashaka. And they simply ran with the story that for some reason the university won the case. No case has been won. The merits has not even been heard yet. So no case has been won. No precedent has been set. So media and liberals out there and pro-vaxxers, please stop being disingenuous. Just stop with the nonsense you are running around with. If you're so stupid as to believe what the mainstream media writes about these things, please listen to my video and understand what is going on here. But just stop the nonsense. You're not scaring us. You're not intimidating us. You're making yourself ludicrous. You're actually emboldening us because we understand how desperate you are to have this little spark that can justify your point of view. And unfortunately, that is not going to happen. We will fight these cases until the end of days. We will fight until we win, and we win decisively. Yaro is also not the type of person that will give up. The specific juristic person driving the case, the applicant themselves, are resolute people. They are people of principle. They will not back down. I can tell you that. So do not for one moment think that this case will not run to its finality. It will. And we will win. There will be victory for our side. Because we are the people who represent human rights and freedom. And you can follow the course of history. The good guys tend to win. In fact, they usually win in the end. As the case is at this point in time, the legal team, I think, will gather next week on the 15th, also with the members of the juristic person. They will discuss the issues, and they will discuss the way forward on the case. I look forward to the 23rd of March. I plan to be at court personally on that day. I want to sit in. I just could not do that yesterday as to pressing matters for the whole week that I had to deal with. Otherwise, I would have been there at court yesterday too. We must be very careful of not exploiting this court case for political means, to play victim by political parties. We are not victims. We are not victims. If you go into a victim mentality, the enemy is winning. We are not victims. We are proud and we are free citizens standing up for our rights, and we are fighting back. That is who we are. So we must be very careful of politicizing this in an attempt in future to get votes at election time. This is not what this issue is about. This issue is about all South Africans. Doesn't matter what your color, creed, or background is. It's important to you as a citizen and a human in South Africa. Okay. I will speak with Yaro again next week. There's actually quite a couple of cases that I am referring to him. Most of them relates to also universities, as he now has the legal expertise and the necessary hard work already put in, the research, all the things needed to run proper cases relating to this, but also vaccination injury cases. You know those cases that I've been speaking about. Many of those cases will be going to Vogel Inc. Incorporated, Pretoria. Many of the expert labor cases will also be running to him in the near future. Why do I say this? Because once again, the warriors that were on the battlefield yesterday were the best warriors they are. We should never doubt them, and we should support them with everything and anything that we have. If you wanted to show the finger and point the finger, point it at the legal process. But I think personally that the best option was exercised yesterday by that court. I think personally the judge did do the right thing. We would surely have liked an outcome already yesterday to come and show to you pro-vaxxers. But unfortunately, it did not happen. I'm going to take the rest of the day off in terms of not being on social media. There's quite an amount of work for clients I need to finish. Guys, paying in your 850 rands that's showing this morning into my account, you will be contacted at the latest on Monday. I'm down in the Free State with my children. My children still recouping from COVID. They were COVID positive. I only saw them on Thursday last week the first time. Also, once again, other issues relating to personal stuff. So we are down here in Free State recuperating. I'm going to not be on social media for very long times, very long periods for the rest of this weekend. But be assured that my eyes are fixed very closely on what is happening all around. I know of all the employers who's now making very desperate moves. I know of all of them. We have our teams inside them already doing tremendous work, and we will fight them on all fronts. I'm going to sign off. I wish you a very prosperous and restful weekend, and we will see one another then, most probably live back here Monday. All of the best, and go well.